a lion who just called Now I wonder, the fact that he is stopped means I think Tristan has found the lion.
Indeed we have, Brenty. Also, you can see Brenty obviously can see where I am, and so he would have known. But there is one of our Avoca boys who is looking ever so good, if I'm honest, considering he's got the limp. I believe it's him that's limping. And so considering the limp that he's got, he's looking quite healthy and kind of well fed. I mean, he's obviously typical male lion on his own, and that's there is a bit of kind of skinniness around the hip area, but he looks alright. I mean, his tummy doesn't look too kind of small at this stage. Difficult to make it out completely, but coat looks in good condition. You can see that one hip slightly sticking out a little bit, which you often see when male lions are on their own, but the coat condition is very good. His mane looks good, so you know, he's doesn't look like he's struggling too much, even though he is limping. And it's amazing how the manes are developing on these guys. You can see he's got that kind of blonde feel to it at the moment, and there is some darkening that's going to start taking place on the sort of chest area. What's been interesting to note is how this guy has been around here quite a bit. We've been seeing a lot of signs of him, and obviously we've seen him a few times recently, whereas the other two don't seem to be spending very much time on Djuma at all. We very seldom actually see their tracks. It just kind of seems like this guy is the one that's kind of crossing back and forth at this stage, kind of looking around, but he's facing to the sort of south west, which is where, you know, Brent has been looking around for hyenas. I can hear hyenas calling from this side in that direction, and so this male lion is also kind of looking that way. And I wonder if maybe there's something that's on the sort of, well, on the go, that he's also listening out. He's being very vocal. I've heard him roar twice in the last little bit, and so I wonder if he's just either trying to find the rest, or he kind of can hear things that he's trying to just impose himself and dominate. And you know, these guys really, with the amount of roaring that they've done and the amount of walking around here with no response from the Birminghams, is pretty safe to say, I would imagine, that the Birminghams are not going to be coming back here anytime soon at this stage, and that the Avocas are going to kind of keep moving around and keep kind of trying to stake their claim. And eventually, you know, the Nkumas and the likes, the Sticks and Torchwoods and Telematis, are all going to have to give in to that fact and eventually be part of this kind of coalition. Now, you can see there's that limp that we're talking about. See, I mean, he could do with a bit of a meal, but he does still look healthy. Are you going to give us a roar, boy? I'm hoping he's going to. Often when lions start moving, they will roar as well. Not quite as kind of predictable as a leopard. A leopard, often you'll find, will roar when it moves. So somebody like Tingana, when he's moving around, he's often sawing quite a bit, whereas lions, they will do it lying down as well as walking about. But he's definitely kind of looking around now and listening almost. There's a bit of a wind in the air, as we could tell with the kind of the way that his mane is sort of blowing about, and I'm hoping that's going to give a roar for us. It's been so long since we've had a roaring lion out of Djuma on camera, so I'm hoping that that will be the case. But his limp is much better than the last time I saw him. I mean, that back leg is still a little bit swollen. Let's see, no, he's now lying down again. I wouldn't be surprised that he does. I mean, he hasn't let out any small kind of contact calls to indicate that he might, but you never know with male lions. They sometimes just belt it out of nowhere, and it can be a very difficult or tricky thing to be able to predict. But I'm hoping he's got one more roar in him for the morning. He's still very alert and very kind of awake, and ears are moving all over the place, and so I'm hoping that's going to mean we're going to hear something out of him shortly. Are you going to roar for us? Linda, you say he roared 5 times on the dam cam. Yes, unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, depending which way you want to look at it, but fortunately, because for me, I like the sound of a lion roaring, but the dam cam is very close to camp, and therefore when these guys decide that they're going to belt it out the way that they do, it often just sends everybody kind of bolt upright and awake, and so definitely kind of heard it and picked it up and woke up from it. And it's a weird thing. It's one of those sounds that's much like a leopard saw. When you hear them lying kind of, or when you're sleeping and you bolt sort of upright and you try to work out exactly where it's coming from so that you're able to try and kind of figure out where it is so that you can find it later. But he definitely did hear most of those roars this morning, and so hopefully, like I say, we'll get one on the camera, because it's quite something when these guys roar. I'm going to just try and move a little bit because that stick is right in his face at the moment, so I'm going to try and just find a bit of a better spot here that we can go through. Now we've got to be careful because we're in Rusty and we mustn't scratch Rusty. We've been told that Rusty now is clean and new and fresh and all painted and looking much better than what it used to. We need to keep it in good condition, and so I have to pay attention to where I'm driving. It's why Brent is not allowed to drive Rusty. No, it's not the real reason. I'm joking. Brent is scared to drive Rusty because he thinks he's going to scratch it, so he's staying on Wendy for now. Little does he know that we're about to do Wendy and Jigger too the same way, and so he's going to have no choice but to drive all of them at some point and look after them and not scratch them or dent them as in previous times. He says it's impossible to follow wild dogs without denting a car, and so hopefully the wild dogs don't come through when he does get into Rusty, because otherwise there will be scratches and dents that will take place. But our line is still, like I say, looking southwest. I don't know what he's hearing. His ears have been quite firmly fixed in that direction. Can't hear any other lions roaring from that side or any kind of sound or audio that would suggest that he's got to be very interested. He's just seems to be kind of a bit fixated. Maybe the Nkuhumas have been that side and roaring. Hello, beautiful boy. Look at that little yellow mane that you've got. It's going to have to darken quite a bit until he's really kind of seen by the ladies as a dominant individual and one that needs to be kind of, looked after and to go and mate with. So there's obviously been lots of studies on that, and it's deemed that the darker maned males are more attractive to the females than these lighter blonder mane. And even the reaction of blonde mane lions towards dark mane lions is quite interesting. They often cower away from the dark mane lions, and that's generally because dark maned males have testosterone that floods through their body, and that makes these guys, well, generally a bigger dominant male, and black mane indicates strength and power, and so the blonde mane guys are often a little bit kind of wary of that and a bit nervous of it. But you can see he's still quite wide-eyed. I don't know if he's convinced about our roof at the moment, and so we'll kind of sit here and try and see if he'll get used to it. And while we do that, though, let's send you back across to Sydney on walk, and if he roars, we'll come right back.